Hello, Saint Lucia. Thank you for joining us on yet another episode of Uncut. I'm your host, Lisa Jawa here. Today, we will be talking to a very strong advocate on social issues. I know she tends to like to be a little humble about it, but it's persons like her we're very thankful, persons who have come out and who are sharing their opinions and are raising the voices of other persons who otherwise would not have been heard. We have in studio with us the president of Raise Your Voice Saint Lucia, Ms. Catherine Sealys. Catherine, thank you so much for joining us. I've been meaning to have you on the show for some time, and I'm glad that it all worked out today. So don't go anywhere. When we get back, we're going to talk a little more with Ms. Sealys. Welcome back. Earlier on, I introduced our special guest, Ms. Catherine Sealys from Raise Your Voice Saint Lucia. She's the president of this organization. Ms. Sealys, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for taking the opportunity to educate our public on the issues that matter. So please, let's start off. Please tell us about yourself, what got you into volunteer work, and your association.
Thank you for inviting me. What got me into volunteer work? Not necessarily volunteer work, but advocacy. What got me into advocacy? I remember the death of Milan Ferdinand. This is a young child, 4 years old, that was removed from his mother and sent to live with his father and his stepmother, and he was beaten to death. And
How long ago did that happen?
That was 6 years ago. And subsequently, somebody contacted us and was speaking about the situation, and they revealed that the government of Saint Lucia, through the Director of Human Services, through the Ministry of Social Transformation at the time, had never called, had never offered assistance to the mother, and had never given a good reason while the child was removed. The trial was in case management a year or so ago. It has not continued as well, so no justice has been served in the matter. However, we continue to use Milan Ferdinand as an example of how we in Saint Lucia, including the government of Saint Lucia, fail children. We're not very good at childcare and protection, but we say we say the right things, we do not walk the walk. And it's always a concern for us that children are not protected even when they are in the care of the state. So this is what got me into advocacy. And it has become something where when you think, okay, I'm going to deal with this and everything, like, you know, then it's a spiral. Everybody calls you and they tell you, well, you know, I went there and they told me that. And the injustices and the abuse of basic human rights in Saint Lucia is not by people who walk on the street, it's by people being paid by the government of Saint Lucia, funded by the taxpayers. And my greatest disappointment is that the legislators who are elected to protect the people, to protect children specifically, are not doing the job that they need to do to minimize these kinds of issues. The matter of children being violated while they're in state care, children who are violated generally while they with their mothers, their fathers, by stepfathers, by fathers, by mothers. And domestic abuse in Saint Lucia is quite prevalent, and the government of Saint Lucia has failed to initiate public education and awareness and a strong voice of authority on that matter, so it continues to spiral out of control.
Yes, I completely agree with you. And was it last year? It was last year in November, the Child Care and Protection Bill was passed, the revised version. And
2 bills were passed, Child Care Protection and Adoption Bill, which deals with care and protection of children, whether be it in the home, in state care, or in adoption generally, which was dealt with on the at the High Court. In that bill, new bill that came through in November, it's removed from the High Court and it goes to committee under the direction of the Human Services Department. And it deals with protection as well. If a child is in danger, how do you provide care and protection, whether in state care, in adoption, or in the home? And the other bill is the Child Justice Bill, which deals with justice for children, for juvenile offenders, for children under the age of 16. How do you house them? How do you protect them? How do you judge them? And so forth and so on. It's quite detailed.
But a child was normally considered a child from up until the age of 15. I believe it's now moved back to 18.
No, a child was always the age of majority. There's two things people must not confuse. The age of majority is 18. That's where you can vote, you can get married, you can get birth control, you can do adult things. And there is age of consent. Age of consent is you can have sex with any and everybody, but you have to remember you are not an adult, but you can have sex. You cannot get birth control. You cannot get married. You cannot go to the doctor alone, but you can have sex. So why we always say this, a man had to have written this, couldn't be written by a woman. Why would you tell a woman they can have all the sex they want, but they cannot go to the doctor, they cannot get birth control, they cannot do anything else. You cannot vote. You know, the inconsistencies in our law, but there are also other inconsistencies. In the education bill, there is something that appears to be another layer of when children are at consent, they say 15, so they can expel them out of school. In the Probation Act, there is another age. So we need a synchronization, so to speak, across the board. So you can say, finally say, age of consent in Saint Lucia is X, age of majority is X. I don't know why the disparity and why the difference and what I've always been confused about. It took me a long time to realize there are two issues, consent and majority. So we're hoping that the legislators in Saint Lucia, who we pay very handsomely, we give a lot of privileges, we pay their tax, we give them duty-free vehicles, we give them travel, we give them what they want. We'll see to it that it requires the government of Saint Lucia, the cabinet and the parliament to synchronize the age of majority for all Saint Lucians. So when there is a court case, when there is a police case, when there is a matter that we know it is that and we're dealing with that, it creates a lot of confusion in the system.
So in addition to this inconsistency, post the passing of the bill, how satisfied are you with the outcome? And what are some of the areas that you believe need to have been improved even up to this point?
The bill previous to that, the Children and Young Persons Act, had a lot of shortcomings because it was an old bill. It had a lot of challenges. This new bill has provided more challenges. I'll tell you why. This new bill requires a specific structure, specific resources, financial, human resources, technical resources, to be allocated to the Department of Human Services, the family court, the probation unit, and what have you. And this bill was passed in Parliament in November without any of those structures.
We have none of them.
Subsequently,
structures
such as new positions, new processes and procedures, how you process children through the system, whether for child care and protection, adoption, whatever. That has not been done. They didn't put any new monies, any new positions, any new.
So we passed the bill
without the structure. Available. So subsequently, they had to make an amendment to the Child Care Adoption and Protection Bill because every single adoption that was already in the system had to be stopped because they removed adoption from the High Court, which is impartial, and they put it at the Director of Human Services' feet. And I have a problem with that because we are so personal, we are so prejudiced over everything and anything in Saint Lucia that the fact that you're going to give one individual that holds the position of Director of Human Services that amount of power in itself is very dangerous to Saint Lucia.
Why was that authority transferred?
The authority was transferred because the Child Care and Protection Bill, Adoption Bill, has been part of the OECS family law bills which were drafted about 18 years ago. Some countries within the OECS amended it to suit anything. Saint Lucia amended it, but it was not amended. It was not amended, in my opinion, with our culture, our behavior, our attitudes, the way we deal with things. And so they had to do an amendment to allow adoption to continue in the High Court because they had not provided the structure and the committee that was supposed to deliberate over adoption was not in place. So they had to make an amendment to allow adoptions to continue. Now, it is I have to tell you that these two pieces of legislation have created more upheaval in the court and within the system than anything else. Case in point, we have people coming out of the family courts with court orders to remove the children from their home and place in foster care, in state care, in homes, issued under the act that was repealed since November. And the orders were being written up to earlier this month. So I don't know.
Still following the previous legislation.
But if you cannot give a court order on a piece of legislation that has been repealed, so it's like you have something and you burn it down. You cannot use it. So I am not understanding if
this is still happening.
I am not understanding if the ministry, if the Attorney General's chambers, if the courts are not vigilant, are not being provided with the information, if the people are not aware. But this situation happens. And it's a blatant abuse of rights. And one of the things we must remember, poor people alone goes to Director of Human Services. Poor people alone end up in the family court. Poor people alone end up in these kinds of social services. People with money get their lawyer and they stand their ground, or they leave Saint Lucia. Every time you have a case from the family court or the human services, it is a poor person, it's a vulnerable person, it's somebody from a marginalized home, a marginalized community. They don't know their rights. The job of the public servant is to inform you of the rights and give you the best advice they can give you to walk it through. The government of Saint Lucia continue to allow this kind of thing to continue. We don't know what to call it. It is abuse of basic human rights of people who you should be protecting, and nobody says anything.
Nobody's saying anything.
And it continues. And we can only advocate, we can only speak on it, we can only write on it. It is not our job, nor do we have the authority to change it.
Now, has your organization brought forward those complaints or those loopholes or those missing parts that you have identified, those inconsistent parts? Have you brought it out to the attention of those in authority?
Those in authority are well aware of the deficiencies. What happens is those in authority have refused to advocate. Nobody is saying you have to be on the radio like me and you have to write and you have to do this. But you may call a meeting and give a strong statement and say, this is going to cause a problem and we need to fix it. This is not being done. What we have is everybody fighting to get on top on what grade am I going to retire at. I am 52, I am 53, my retirement comes in at 55. I need to be in that grade 18, 19, 20. So when I retire, my retirement can look good.
That's all that
my
matters.
monthly gratuity or whatever it is they call it will be good. And I am not saying that because I have anything prejudicial against public servants. I've worked in the public service. It is what it is. And it is that way. Because we have this thing called the staff orders that appears to be something that give public servants carte blanche over everything. And the legislators have failed to look at it, to amend it, to throw it out, and put laws in place that civil servants are accountable.
Exactly.
Civil servants are not accountable. And we continue to deal with it as a cycle.
Absolutely agree. So we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we will talk more about the age of consent and a few issues that have been surfacing in the media. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back.
Our Studio Fit and Healthy 911. Instructor-led classes that suits all your fitness needs. One-on-one personal training to small groups of 7 or larger groups. Soca Fit, boot camp, high-intensity interval training, indoor cycling, kickboxing, yoga, Pilates, and so much more. Studio Fit and Healthy 911, located in the Vet Clinic building, Bois-Rouge, Gros-Islet, where we defy limits.
If you haven't checked out Ram J's Auto Parts yet, what are you waiting for? We stock a wide assortment of older and newer model popular car and SUV parts. Suzuki, Toyota, Mitsubishi, Honda, Nissan, Mini Cooper, and lots more. That's not all, Ram J's also stocks truck and heavy equipment parts. And if that won't help you, we also do heavy equipment rental to keep your downtime at a minimal. Ram J's Auto Parts is located Masad Industrial Zone, Gros-Islet. Contact us 450-0495 or 716-1400 or email ramj35@hotmail.com.
It's Friday when I can still be there. Let's go home, girl.
Wait. I'm almost done.
Sarah, what are you up to? Sarah, why would you do that?
Did you see what she had on today? Her cousin even fit and she was messy. My girls are going to love this.
Sarah, have you thought about how damaging this could be? Her family, her friends, her mother, Sarah, everyone can see that. Why would you try and hurt someone so innocent?
Chill, it's not that big of a deal.
No, Sarah, not that of a big deal, Sarah. I'm sorry, but I can't allow you to do that, Sarah. You're hurting someone, Sarah. How would you feel if someone hurt you, Sarah? How would you feel if someone hurt someone you cared about, Sarah? Come on.
We must work together to end bullying now. A message from the South Castries Youth and Sports Council in collaboration with the Ministry of Youth Development and Sports and the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College.
So before we went on the break, we were talking about a lot of the loopholes and areas that need to be considered on the recently passed bill, and before that we were talking about the age of consent. Now there's a particular situation that has been in the media for some time, but you hear about these things and then you don't hear about them at all, because the persons who should be coming out and commenting and sharing information with the public, they're not saying anything. They talk about issues being sensationalized, and that's as much as you will hear. And I'm drawing reference to the particular situation of a young lady who was underage and who allegedly killed a young man in Grosley, and soon after, well, not too long after, we found out that she was sexually abused in an area where she should have been protected, the prison, bodily correctional facility. With the information that is surfacing out there and understanding that this young lady was already underage, should she have been in bodily in the first place?
The question is, one of the things we have found out is that in the Child Justice Bill, it says the minister responsible at the time and the minister responsible now is the Minister of Social Justice, Leonard Spider Montoute. He is responsible for creating an environment within a physical structure so that you can house juvenile offenders. Juvenile offenders, anybody up to the age of 16, should never ever be remanded in a maximum security prison. And some will tell you it is Saint Lucia's maximum security prison. Okay. So whether she had committed a crime or not, the fact that she was a juvenile, she should not have been there, based on the Child Justice Bill that Leonard Spider Montoute took to Parliament of November last year and enacted. The Governor General signed off on it. So the fact that she was there in the first place is wrong. The second question is, why would you place a juvenile offender in general female population for people who are much older? The lawyer representing this child filed a petition with the court to say that he does not feel the situation and the environment is safe and conducive for a juvenile offender. She's in general female population. I think she should, the court should make a judgment. He did file a petition.
Okay.
The court directed the Director of Public Prosecution Office to investigate, to verify the information that was filed, and for the court to make a decision. I cannot tell you that the Director of Public Prosecution Office had finished the investigation or done the investigation, submitted the report. Nobody from the DPP office or from any office has spoken so we can say, well, it was done. So I don't know. I can say that. So the child is in a maximum security prison in female population, and then there is a break-in, and the allegations are male prisoners broke down a flowered wall and got into the medical unit, the infirmary, how they call it.
Where she was
in the infirmary.
kept.
So the question we need to ask is the prison safe? Is the security in the prison intact? Who is responsible for this breach of security and that violates a juvenile offender that was not supposed to be there in the first place?
Right.
So the question, we should be asking the question from the Prime Minister of this country, who's the chief security officer in this country. Never mind, you have a commissioner of police and a minister of national security. The buck stops with the Prime Minister. And the Prime Minister has failed to come out to say to this nation that we take the responsibility for allowing this situation, because the only reason why the court sent her there is because there was nowhere else to send. And mind you, the court did not send her there. The court sent her to the Babonneau police station.
Oh, okay.
But how long can she stay at the Babonneau police station? Does the Babonneau police station have facilities to house juvenile offenders? No, they don't. So at some point or another, the Ministry of Social Justice, with the Department of Human Services, Probation, and what have you, promised the court, we will put everything in place and have her isolated from the general population, and she will be safe. They promised the court. So the court say, okay. They sent her there, throw her in general population. And then the prison guard tell her, you are not going to get special treatment. You are going to be treated like everybody else. Nobody is disputing the fact that she has committed a crime. That is not up for discussion. What is up for discussion is, why is she in a maximum security prison in general population as a juvenile? And why was this big security breach? And we have not heard from the newly reappointed director of prison, Hilary Herman, except to say he's doing an investigation. I have to say that we have absolutely no confidence in any kind of investigation in Saint Lucia. If we were to check and we were to hire a researcher to do a research project on how many investigations have we asked of been told is being conducted, and how many investigations have they come out and give us the response, they probably tell you 200 or more. So we have absolutely no faith that there will be an investigation that would be impartial and people would be accountable. But we cannot be speculating and saying we don't know. Hilary Herman, as director of prison, 5 days, 7 days, doesn't matter. He's the director.
And this event happened more than 2 weeks ago.
Yes, he's responsible. We have not heard from the Prime Minister to say we have failed our children. Never mind what has happened. We have not heard from the director of prison given a proper conclusion, a proper explanation for this security breach. We have not heard from the DPP office to explain whether they had done the investigation or they had completed or what they are doing about it. We have not heard from the Director of Human Services, who has sole responsibility for juveniles in Saint Lucia. We have not heard from the Director of Probations. We have not heard from the Minister of Social Justice. We have not heard from the three female parliamentarians, Gail Rigobert, Mary Isaac, Fortuna Belrose. We have not Sarah Flood, who's supposed to be a great big advocate for every and anything
such as
issues. And we have not heard from anybody. We have not even heard from the church. The church don't seem to think there is a problem with this. And the question I want to ask women is, when a politician come to you, because the election will be held not too far from now, I want to ask women in Saint Lucia, when a politician comes to your home in the very near future and tell you, I need your vote, what are you going to ask for?
Exactly.
This is what I want to ask. Because women have the most issues in Saint Lucia, because men write the laws and they throw women under the bus at will. And women continue to be in the majority when it comes to doing house to house, vetting voters lists, working on election day, working as returning agents, working as election agent, and cursing and insulting people on behalf of political parties. Women take the pride in that. So I want to ask women, what is it you're going to ask for when a politician comes to you and say, I need your vote? We have a number of things to ask for. You are going to ask, how long am I going to receive $200 from my child's father? How long am I going to give my child his father's name or her father's name, and there is no benefit in it for me, except the father can block and obstruct me as will because his name is on the birth certificate without any benefits? How long am I going to be treated like a second-class citizen in this country because I'm not married? You know, how long am I going to allow everybody to have sex with my 16-year-old daughter, but telling my 16-year-old daughter she has no rights because she's not 18 yet? Women in Saint Lucia need to get up and get.
And time after time, we're just seeing so many of those issues and so many instances where those in authority continue to fail, because those resources should have been put in place from the get-go before you passed all of this legislation. And we're just working back to front on all of those issues. And it makes you wonder, you know, in a situation like that, where this young lady should not have been there in the first place, and you think of rehabilitation, all the time she has lost to, you know, make some improvements to her life. And even with the rehabilitation issue, I had a young man talk about his experiences on one of my previous episodes, and it was for having a joint, and he was he did not have a case. He was not able to get out of prison. He was just in there for a very long time. And he lost out on a lot of opportunities, educational opportunities, employment, because you have all of those things on your record that, you know, should have been gone by now. We are just seeing a lot of areas that are inconsistent, Ms. Sealys, and I'm really glad that you called on women to, you know, take a stand and ask for what it is that you want, because we tend to see women are one of the most reliable set of voters, if not the most reliable set of voters. They are the ones who are pretty much controlling everything. They are the ones who set the pace. They come out early, and if they say my family is supporting this party, you tend to see a lot of members of the family supporting that as well. But we're not asking for the things that we deserve. We're not asking for the things that our children deserve, but we are really just sitting back and accepting whatever it is that the government is giving us. So as it relates to moving forward, what are some of the areas that short-term you think we can put in place to make those situations better? We might not be able to resolve all of those issues, but just some short-term examples of things that we can put in place.
St. Lucians do something very well. They go, they vote, they're very excited on the day of voting. They're very excited during the political campaign. That moves them. They're very excited on the day of election to make sure everybody they can get to vote for the particular party votes. Women in St. Lucia do that. And then we go home and we wait, because in our minds and in our hearts, the 16 people we have voted for will sit in the cabinet, they will sit in the House of Parliament, and they will do the right thing. I think now we are at the place where we know they just don't do the right thing.
They don't.
And we as St. Lucians need to vote and then demand what we want. Until we demand what we want, politicians are going to be handing out peanuts and then want praise for it. A politician changed 2 sheets of galvanized on the school, and that is because he feeling so empowered, he feeling so powerful because I've done something. Whose money did you do? What did they put you there for? Just to be there? You're doing your job. When I do my job, nobody calls me and tell me I'm doing a good job. I have to do my job. I don't have a choice. So one of what will drive politicians in St. Lucia is for the electorate to vote, but demand.
Yeah. It should
And
be
demand
like an
what you
interview
want,
process
and
too.
when you don't get what you want, demand some more.
Exactly.
And if he's not giving, she's not giving,
Take
or
them
doing
out.
what he needs to do, you need to demand that they go, and demand until they go. And this is what we need to learn in St. Lucia, because nothing is going to fix this country if we don't want to fix it.
But we're really just waiting for the next election cycle for us
This
to
is
decide
so long.
if
We're not
to
going
take them
anywhere with
out.
that. We spent 5 years waiting for somebody to make a decision that children under the age of 16, up to the age of 16, should not be in a maximum security prison. Let us speak about the Boys Training Center. The Boys Training Center has been there for a very long time. It is a feeding tube for the Bodily Correctional Facility. Initially, Her Majesty's Prison. If you were to do a rough estimate, 18 out of 20 boys that leave the Boys Training Center will go to the Bodily Correctional Facility. If you look at the children's home where they have boys and girls, when you look at the girls, 18 out of 20 will find themselves in the ghetto, having children with multiple men, being in gang, in domestic violence relationship. It's obvious that the rehabilitative methods they're using are not working if they are doing any rehabilitation. You have cases at Boys Training Center where they severely beat and injure children. And the public servants, the same person that they take the child from to say you cannot take care of, when this happens, they put you back in the care of the same person and cover it up. And they coerce you into accepting peanuts when your child is dead. A child was burnt to a crisp in the cell at the Boys Training Center. We have never heard what the report said, who was responsible, but they gave the mother $25,000. How long did it last? You know, the injustice in St. Lucia is really, really, really prevalent, but people tend to close their eyes, they close their nose, they close their ears, they hear no evil, they see no evil, they smell no evil. And the status quo continues. You cannot do short-term fix in St. Lucia. Nothing short-term. It's not going to be. You want to do short-term, call an election. You're not going to call an election, will you? No. St. Lucians need to demand what is right and demand that it is something that is not short-term. Short-term, we've been through there, done that. It's not going to work.
Well, Ms. Sealys, I know we have a lot to talk about, so we're going to take our final break, and we'll just close off when we get back.
Okay.
Despite what I still been let's go home, girl.
Wait. I'm almost done.
Sarah, what are you up to? Sarah, why would you do that?
Did you see what she had on today? Her clothes didn't even fit and she was messy. My girls are going to love this.
Sarah, have you thought about how damaging this could be? Her family, her friends, her mother, Sarah, everyone can see that. Why would you try and hurt someone so innocent?
She didn't, it's not that big of a deal.
No, Sarah, not that of a big deal, Sarah. I'm sorry, but I can't allow you to do that, Sarah. You're hurting someone, Sarah. How would you feel if someone hurt you, Sarah? How would you feel if someone hurt someone you cared about, Sarah? Come on.
We must work together to end bullying now. A message from the South Castries Youth and Sports Council in collaboration with the Ministry of Youth Development and Sports and the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College. We are Studio Fit and Healthy 911, instructor-led classes that suits all your fitness needs. One-on-one personal training to small groups of 7 or larger groups. Soca Fit, boot camp, high-intensity interval training, indoor cycling, kickboxing, yoga, Pilates, and so much more. Studio Fit and Healthy 911, located in the Vet Clinic building, Bois Groselet, where we defy limits.
If you haven't checked out Ram J's Auto Parts yet, what are you waiting for? We stock a wide assortment of older and newer model popular car and SUV parts. Suzuki, Toyota, Mitsubishi, Honda, Nissan, Mini Cooper, and lots more. That's not all, Ram J's also stocks truck and heavy equipment parts. And if that won't help you, we also do heavy equipment rental to keep your downtime at a minimal. Ram J's Auto Parts is located Masad Industrial Zone, Groselet. Contact us 450-0495 or 716-1400 or email ramj35@hotmail.com.
So before our break, we were talking about, you were giving us an example of a young man being burned at the Boys Training Center and his family was given money. And I never even heard of that on the media.
Don't say money, say $25,000.
$25,000.
That is what
I never even heard about that at all.
The life of a child is worth.
And I mean, obviously I'm not in the situation, I wasn't there, but there are a number of things a parent could possibly be thinking in terms of maybe I need the money, this is all that I have, and to accept $25,000.
In my personal opinion, you have to look at people. For me, if somebody give me $25,000, I'm like, that ain't no money. For some people, you give them $25,000, that's a world.
It's a lot. Mm-hmm.
And we use the status of people. Because obviously, a poor marginalized woman would think $25,000 is a lot. Mm-hmm. And senior public servants who are trained, who are educated, who know better, will work to make sure that woman gets. Let something happen to them, you'll see if they're not asking for a whole million. Mm-hmm. So what we do as black people, we use our power and position to abuse those that are less fortunate. Those are down there. Our job is to lift them up. We use it to keep them down there, and that is a case in point. Mm-hmm. We have cases where the child was beaten so badly, the child was paralyzed, needed brain surgery, and they released the child to the grandmother and offering the child transport to go to the doctor and grocery.
Wow.
If a public servant goes there to in the ministry, hell to pay. Mm-hmm. They're asking for the entire building. So you understand what's going on there? And this happens because there is no proper protocol and process where if this happens, this is what you follow.
Exactly, and I was just about to ask you, so a situation like this, what is supposed to happen in your opinion? Or in the current standing of how things are, what is the right way to go about getting, some sort of action?
Anybody that gets, and I don't mean a physical injury, I mean gets abuse of him by the government, by state agents, they need to go to a private lawyer. Mm-hmm. If you cannot go to a private lawyer, forget it. Because the public servants will work against you, mm-hmm. that you will never get what is coming to you. Never mind if it reaches their doorstep, they know what to do. But that's a completely different story.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
If you get, the situation comes that way. One of the things that happens between the Department of Human Services, the family court, For example, a woman comes and say, well, they take my child, I don't do the child nothing, I taking care of the child thing, and you get them legal representation. They are so angry at this woman. How dare you get legal representation and you want to dilute my power? They do that. They don't say it, but you the body language, the attitude, the behavior. And they like the fact that people who are less able come to them and they can impose their power. Never mind they're not doing what they're supposed to do.
Because you may not know any
a
better.
social worker has so many responsibilities and there is no accountability for them in Saint Lucia. The social worker who removed Milan Ferdinand from his mother's home and sent him to live with his stepmother and father, and he was beaten to death, got a government scholarship, and he went to do his master's. So, where do we go from there? The system is just corrupted, and you don't have any accountability. If I go today and I say, I'm coming to here because I have this problem, and so, I meet you. I get one response. I am asked to come back. When I come back, Miss so-and-so is not there, she's sick, she's not well. The other person gives you a different story. That tells you there is no particular process you're supposed to follow, and reporting patterns and structures that ensures that you do the right thing. The right thing is how you feel.
And
how
most
I feel
persons
today.
are afraid to report them because they
don't know they
what's
can
going
report
to
them.
happen too.
And what people don't understand, they tell you, so what you don't understand, what people don't understand is that a woman who does not know a lot of stuff, I mean, she coming from somewhere, she don't know all this information, she don't know the people there, she rich, they tell you, press the bell and for you to go inside. That alone intimidates her already. So she's thinking, should I go or should I just go back and leave that alone? Then she reach inside. It depends on what mood the reception is in. So if the reception is fine and say, how can I help you today, my lady? What if I'm thinking? They may be a little more forthcoming. If the reception is bullrag them, they forget what they wanted and they go back home. People have to understand what people who do not have the privilege they have go through. And the privilege they have, the reason why it was given to them is to help those very same people. If I have a problem, I'm not going to human services, I know what to do. I get my lawyer and I do what I have to do. If a woman who is living in a relationship, she's not working, the man is beating her, he's abusing the children, he's threatening to kill her, she will not know what to do. She will come to you, and your job is to make sure she gets the justice she deserves, not to abuse her further. And we do that. We victimize, we abuse further. And there is absolutely no accountability. We have something we call the Parliamentary Commissioner. That's Office of the Ombudsman. That is just an office where they're paying somebody a lot of money to just show up if they want. This office does nothing, but we continue to pay their salaries. We continue to give them office support. We give admin staff, we pay rent. What's the point? We say we don't have money, but we use a lot of our money in the wrong way.
In the wrong places. So what is Raise Your Voice doing about those issues? At what point does your organization come in to support somebody who, really cannot speak for themselves?
We support people. If somebody calls us, or if an agency, if somebody calls us and say, so-and-so is going on and we want you to help the person. We first find out, okay, so we need to speak to you to find out what is the problem. And we always ask, what do you want us to do about it? Because I have this anti-red tape thingy. I cannot deal with that story. When you go, they're skipping you down the road. I can't deal with that. Tell me what you want to do, because whatever I do is going to have immediate impact, and somebody is going to be mad. So you need to understand that and tell me what you want me to do. So if you agree that we are going to do that, we're going to write a very strong letter, or we're going to go with you, you have to agree, and you have to take instructions. Now, the other problem is we don't do everybody. So we are not in any way saying that the system is fixed just because we are there. No. That's why we do a lot of public advocacy, so at least people hear and they get a little idea of what I should and shouldn't do, and how do I get redress for particular things. But what we do is a lot of advocacy. We provide a lot of services. We do a lot of services, but we only do services with people we work with. The reason for that is because the financial implications and everything else that comes with it is limited with us.
And you're voluntary.
And we are completely voluntary. We have property has been donated to us, which we are renovating to put our offices, so it will make it easier for people to come in.
Access.
And we work on a number of things. We've provided training to public service people to provide better services, because we find we don't have a lot of that now, but it took us a long time to get to where we are today, where a woman who is being domestically abused goes to the police and they say, that's man and woman business, I'm not getting involved with that. We go there and just now you come back with the man. We need that to stop, because that has caused a lot of death. In 2016, we had 8 domestic homicides. 8 or 7, I can't remember, but between 7 and 8.
Right.
And then you find this has minimized a little bit. And what we have found out is the VPT unit, the vulnerable persons unit within the police force, they've evolved. They're past the time where they would say, me, I can't do anything about that. They will listen, they will do what they have to do. They'll refer you to the family court, they will call us and say, can you help this person?
Right.
So you have a little bit of success. We do provide the public health system with medicines and medical supplies for the last 3.5 years, from 2015, from September of 2015 to now. We are looking at the possibility of working with our partners to upgrade some public health facilities, and to look at the possibility of doing a elderly care center, because we during the storm, the last time, this came out like, what do you do with homeless people when it rains, when there's a hurricane? Do you leave them outside there to drown? So there are...
But some of them refuse to be transferred to some other facility too.
You cannot refuse what you don't have. The system is bad. The Public Health Act we have now is lacking, and there is a draft that has been in draft for 10 years. There needs to be a change in the Public Health Act that says, even if you're mad on you on the road trying to kill people, I cannot move you on the road. The government cannot fight against its own self. They need to adjust that. And when you have an elderly care center, you don't have an elderly care center, you come and go as you wish, whether you schizophrenic,
exactly,
or you want to harm people. It has to be controlled, and public health, mental health is a key part in managing those people. Most of the people that are homeless have mental health issues. This has not been addressed. So when they tell you that they're not doing their own jobs, they need to amend the Public Health Act or put the draft through.
Yeah, this is another issue that we will be talking about soon. But how can persons contact your organization if they're looking for some sort of assistance? How do people get to you?
We have a website, we have a Facebook page, we have a Twitter account, and everybody else and their godmother have my number.
Oh, okay.
We have a contact number which I can't remember. I can only remember my number, but we do have an organization for that. I can remember the number.
Okay, so Saint Lucia, you can go onto their Facebook page, Twitter page, their online, their website, Raise Your Voice Saint Lucia. If you have any questions or anything you would like to ask Ms. Sealys after our interview, please follow us, Uncut with Lisa Jawa here, on Instagram and Facebook, and let us know your thoughts. Thank you so much again for joining us. Bye-bye.